Get ready to flip your game night. Down Up is a 15-minute card shedding game for 2 to 5 players, where you'll build sets, mess with your opponents, and watch those combos bounce right back into their hands, upside down. It's fast, clever, and full of those no-way moments. Easy to learn and perfect for game nights with friends and family. Down Up will become your new favorite card game. Hello, and welcome to episode 95 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Amanda Panda, and for this episode, I'm here with Emily Vincent of Pink Hawk Games. Hello, Emily.
Hi, Amanda. Great to
How
be
are you
here.
doing? Yes, I'm so
doing
glad
good.
you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. Very excited.
Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. Can you please tell people about yourself?
Sure. So I am a board game designer and now publisher. I have a couple games out. Knitting Circle came out last year with Flat Out Games. And this year, Hawk has brought Pirates of the High Teas forward as our first game. And so I'm sort of doing a bunch of things in the board game world. I'm continuing to design and pitch games. I'm also continuing to design and now sign games for Pink Hawk. And so we've got some more games coming there. And I'm doing a little bit of contract work here and there as well. So I just have a lot of plates spinning in the board game world.
I think that's average for most of us in the tabletop industry.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so funny. Unrelated to our main topic, I always am wondering, how do you know which to pitch to other publishers and how do you know which ones to keep for your own publishing company, Pink Hawk?
Yeah. So in Pink Hawk, we're trying to do whimsical strategy games. And so if it doesn't have, a friend of mine said, if it doesn't have the pink, right, it doesn't have the like whimsy and something that's a little bit like on its head. And it doesn't also have like the hawk where there's like a little bit of something bite, a little bit of, I got to dig into this strategy, then maybe it's a better fit, for someone else. So when I have like a very calm, meditative game, that's probably not going to fit with my company. So I need to go find a company that would be a better fit for.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. How did your company's name come out? Because your favorite color apparently is not pink.
It's not. It's purple. And I actually, I haven't updated my color for a while, but I have had a pink mohawk for about more than 10 years now. And so while it's a little bit blonde right now, it'll be pink again before I hit Origins. And so the story's, it's named after my mohawk, right? Essentially, which was sort of a place where I found a sort of freeing moment. I was in a tech career and doing a bunch of stuff. And at some point I just said, you know what, I'm just going to show up as who I want to be. And cutting my hair and having a pink mohawk was a part of that journey. And it sort of flipped a switch for me, opened a bunch of doors where like, I was like, oh, I don't have to be my little corporate self and in order to be successful. And so that was sort of the beginning of a whole new part of my life. And I thought it would be cute because like a hawk is an animal and that's great. And pink is a good color. And then I got into this world and discovered that Pink Tiger Games exists. And so that has been confusing because Amy also has pink hair and people are like, they get the two of us confused despite our games being fairly different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a branding choice that I made and now I'm going to roll with it. But yeah.
That's okay. I mean,
yeah,
your games are radically different.
Yes.
Hers are more party games, big box, those types of games.
And they're very sweet and kind, right? And mine perhaps less so. Like I said, a little bit of the hawk. I need a little bit of the hawk, right?
You need it. That's so funny. So how did you get into the board game industry? Like, when did you start playing a lot of board games?
So I've been playing board games my whole life. I was one of the kids in the after school program, right? So we hung out and played Guess Who and Monopoly and Stratego. In high school, I was part of a group that played card games on the bus. So we played Bridge and Capitalism. Yeah, we were an interesting little crew. And we had a very long bus ride. So we'd be on the bus for like an hour and we'd be playing card games. And then in the early 2000s, got into Settlers of Catan as my sort of gateway game, and found the modern hobby. But I had never actually designed a game until about 2022, so post-pandemic. And I am actually by training a UI UX designer. So I do human-computer interaction as my primary profession for 2 decades. And went to PAX East one year because I always go to PAX East because I love PAX East, and came home and was like, I'm just not seeing the games that I want to play. Right? I love that these games exist, but like, I cannot conquer the galaxy one more time. I cannot trade anything else in the Mediterranean. Just is not, and I was like, I'm a designer. Maybe I could design a game. So my partner went out for a long run and he came back and I'm surrounded by tiny bits of paper. And I was like, I made a game. Let's play it. Right. I was immediately, bitten by the bug and haven't stopped since.
I love that. I love that.
It's addictive. It's addictive.
Once you get started, though, once you get that first one going, right?
Absolutely.
How did you get through all that playtesting, that hump of getting your first game published?
Yeah, so I sort of did a couple of things. So one is I listened to a ton of podcasts, and on a number of those podcasts, I heard some version of your first 5 games are going to be really bad, so don't hold them precious. And so I was like, I'm going to design all 5 of those at the same time. So in my first year of game design, I designed 9 different games that I designed. Some only got 1 playtest before I was like, this is terrible. To the shelf you go. And others, one of those was Pirates of the High Teas. One of them is a game that I'm publishing later this year. And some will never see the light of day. And some I hope to bring back. So I did a lot, right? I just did a lot. And in order to do that kind of playtesting, I really dove into online playtesting. So in Boston, we have the Boston Game Makers Guild, and they were having a sort of weekly online Monday night. You could bring games and playtest via online platforms. So I did a bunch of that because we weren't really back in person from the pandemic yet. And so then I found ProtoSpiel Online, which is a 3 times a year online playtesting convention. And more recently, Break My Game, which we host playtests every day of the week online. Some days have multiple playtest slots as well. So I'm a big online playtester, and then I do in person where I can. Right, I go to UnPub Prime. I've done UnPub at other conventions. Boston Game Makers Guild has some in person stuff now that we're a little bit further past the pandemic. So just playtesting whenever I possibly can.
Yes, and that's a whole different topic that could be a whole episode, but we're not going to be talking about today. It was on the possibilities list, but I wanted to ask some rapid fire questions. Just give it to me, the first thing that comes to your mind.
This feels like it's a test that I desperately need to ace. I will just tell you right now, my competitive edge is like, all right, gonna nail this one. Absolutely.
So this is just 5 questions off the top of my head. Let's go. Okay. All right, so rapid fire questions. First thing that comes off the top of your head. We're going to go hard. Favorite mechanism?
Favorite mechanism? Probably like set collection.
Okay. Yeah, very nice. Favorite game?
Pandemic.
I like it too. Not the real life game.
Not the real life game. I haven't actually played Pandemic since the pandemic, but we did all 3 seasons of the Legacy game before the actual pandemic. And working on the Lord of the Rings version now.
So. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard, but so good.
Yes, we lost. We lost.
I've only won because I play with the designer, so that's just the thing. Favorite convention?
So I love PAX East because it was my first convention, and I go every year with my partner, and we just sit in the free play area and play board games the whole time. But I obviously love Gen Con and Origins and PAX Unplugged as well now, but PAX East is the OG for me.
You have to leave sometime to go to like get some food at the Pike's place, right? So
yeah.
Okay, so board game storage, vertically or horizontally?
So if you saw my shelf, it's both. I have a weird shelf. I don't have a calyx, and so I just have there's some that stack horizontally, and then to make room, I put the others vertically. And so it's like a mishmash.
And the last question, is taco a sandwich?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yes, right?
Also, hot dog. You have hit upon my favorite topic. I am here. Would you like to talk about the cube rule of bread? Like, let's go.
Last week, I mentioned Brave and Bold, the new officially licensed DC combat game from Resurrection Games, debuting at Gen Con. Registration is open right now. 10 characters: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Darkseid, and more. Each one plays differently. Not just different abilities, different strategies, different ways to win. Every turn, you're pulling tokens from a bag, pushing your luck, and unleashing your character's moves. Push too far, and you trigger a crisis that costs you everything. Brave and Bold doesn't hit retail until September. Gen Con is the pre-launch event. Register for a Learn to Play event and walk away with the Superman and Lex Luthor set and exclusive foil collector cards. Pick up the game at the Resurrection Games booth and add a limited edition Metal First Player coin and Gen Con only playmats to your collection. These won't exist after the show ends. Spots are going. Link is in the show notes. Register now. Brave and Bold. Be first.
Okay, let's just really quickly, what is the cube rule of bread?
So this is a way to contemplate what things are based on their topology, I think. So like anything where there's only bread on one side is like a flat bread, right? And anything where there's bread on two sides, I think, was a sandwich, right? Two opposite sides. And 3 sides is a taco, and 5 sides is a bread bowl, and something like that. So then it's like a pie is actually a bread bowl, right? Because it's got bread on 5 sides, the bottom and all the way around.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and I think a fully encased is like a calzone. So like a Pop-Tart is a calzone in that model. And like
a burrito, a Pop-Tart is a burrito. It's a sweet burrito, right?
yeah, right? No, it's a lot of fun. I think if you also look up like the alignment chart, I'm like chaotic neutral or chaotic evil for the sandwich alignment. I'm like, everything is a sandwich.
Yes,
does it have bread or an outer thing? It's a sandwich, right?
So that's what I think, but
yes,
people, of course, have debated this online.
They can't help it that they're wrong. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you for that. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Now, you say in your outside of the tabletop industry life, you do usability and UI design. Can you explain what that is? Because that's going to be our main topic for this episode, is how usability and UI design is important in board games. So can you please explain what that is first for those of us that don't know? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I come from a human-computer interaction background. So I studied how do you make software very intuitive for people to use so that they know what they should do, how to recover from errors when they make a mistake in their software. And in general, you want software as an experience to sort of disappear, for people to not think about the fact that they're using software, because if they're thinking about it, they're frustrated, probably. They're looking for something. And so in general, right, usability is about turning the interface itself invisible, making it so intuitive that people don't even think about what they're doing. It's just obvious what they should do if they want to accomplish task X. And so usually that gets put into a couple different groups. I sort of have focused on user interface, which is what are all the little knobs and widgets and icons and things like that. And also then the user experience, which is a little bit more about what does your journey through that system feel like and look like as a user. But there's lots of other ways in on this from a human factors perspective. So there's people who actually study like what kinds of things will actually be most efficient from a human movement perspective, and what kinds of things from a human attention standpoint. Like if you're doing safety critical systems, how do you need to use color and notification in order to make sure that people really get the information that they need when they need it, and that they actually understand what the system is trying to tell them. So yeah, I come from critical decision systems is my background.
That's really cool. And a lot of it does, like, just hearing you explain it totally applies to board games. It's funny because as of the recording of this episode, I just watched Steph and Michael on Board Gamer Steph's Twitch, and Steph was talking about how she holds her cards from high to low in her hand from left to right. And that's not how most of us do it. Most of us does it from low to high because that's how we read numbers. That's how we read is from left to right in the United States. And she was like, no, I do it from high to low because I play using my right hand to take out of my left hand. So I play cards on the right first before playing cards on the left, which to her is more efficient because her right hand is closer to the right side. So when you were talking about that, I was like, I understand from her point of view. But no one really does it that way, which is really funny. Everyone was like, what? Michael's like, no, that seems totally wrong. But I was like, but I understand from a movement, it's just like a 1/10 of a second, like closer to what you need to grab. And so like sometimes what I would do is I would put what I want to play next on my right side, either my hand, like in Mahjong, I'll take the tiles that I want to throw out onto my right side because then I just flick it out from the right. And it's a lot more efficient than go all the way through this hand of tiles, right? So similar to a hand of cards. I was like, oh yeah, I understand that stuff. But also reading from high to low just seems more work for your brain, even though it's more efficient for your hand movement, which I thought that was really interesting and connected, to that. But it's interesting how you apply that to your design. So can you give us an example of how you would apply some of these concepts to your board game design specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I love that example that you just gave. And I think one of the things about that is that everyone is different. And so much of usability is about designing not just for the average, but trying to get as much of the tail ends as well. So how do you design it such that the vast majority of people can use it, even if they have different ways of thinking and working and ordering their things? So a couple things that I do. So I like to think a lot about usability when I'm prototyping my games. So even before we get to the final product, one of my sort of favorite things to talk about is usability and prototypes. Because I think in the board game design space, there's a lot of people who say, don't waste your time making your prototype pretty, right? And I know a lot of them mean don't worry about art, which I can totally agree with. But I find that for me, it's worth it to spend a little bit of time on the usability and the graphic design, which for a lot of people, that's making it pretty, right? Like I'm choosing fonts, I'm spending time thinking about icons, I'm spending time thinking about colors. Because if I don't spend a little time on that, I'll get into a playtest and all the feedback will be about that user interface.
Yeah.
Right? It'll be like, I wasn't really sure what I should do because like this icon looked like that icon, or like, I couldn't really read your handwriting on this handwritten card. And so then like the whole test is kind of wasted because I didn't get any feedback on the underlying system. I got some feedback on the usability of it. So I like to think about upfront sort of strategic minimalism.
Yeah.
How much color am I going to use and where am I going to use it, and which icons am I going to use and where am I going to use them? Right? Where am I going to use words? Because words are really powerful. We can read really quickly and we can convey a lot of information with words. But where am I going to try and reduce that to an icon? Right. And so I will go and spend some time on the noun project, finding icons that I think are easy to understand and easy to differentiate from each other. And that really importantly have a word that goes with them that people can look at. So they can look at it and be like, that's a star. And maybe I'm trying to get them to think talent or something like that. But there is no good icon for talent. And when you start to get clever with icons, people do this thing in their head where they're like, oh, I'm looking for another little swoopy star with the things around it. And like they start to create a sentence for your icon, which is kind of not what you were going for. So I'll spend a bunch of time sort of picking good icons and then picking a color palette to sort of dual encode those icons. Because if everything is black on a black and white prototype, nothing pops out. So some people visually are really good at differentiating color. Some people are really good at differentiating shape. If you do both shape and color, you tend to get the vast majority of people that they can just sort of scan over and be like, that's the red heart, that's the yellow star.
Yeah.
And so again, things start to pop out and they don't have to think about it because their brain does that work for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to ask though, because you brought up the word font. Do you have a
Yes.
favorite font?
Do I have a favorite font? Right now, I'm using a lot of Acumen semi-condensed.
Okay.
I recently switched over to that from I was using Futura before that, and I've just decided that I'm over Futura, and so Acumen is my new go-to. Not sure why, it just spoke to me recently, but that's my sans.
Yeah.
I think I was using Garamond as a serif font for a while, and sometimes depending on the feel of the game, I'll throw a serif font in instead. What I do avoid, sadly, is any of the really fancy fonts because no one can read them, right? And so then you spend time trying to decipher it. And I'm working on some games that are set in a Victorian era, and I desperately want a calligraphy font. And every time I'm tempted, I'm like, they're not going to be able to read that very easily. I should just, for right now, stick with my sans serif and it will be fine.
Especially now that they stopped teaching kids how to write in cursive and read in cursive. It's so sad that we have a whole generation that will not be able to read historical documents that were written in cursive. And then you have to worry about who's going to take over those jobs of conservation, translating, interpreting all those old documents that are written in cursive, and you have to know how to read in cursive, and then you have to realize that they are in handwriting and therefore even harder to read. I really think that eventually we're going to go back where we have to teach our kids how to write and read in cursive again just to keep the history alive. So I understand. I love reading and seeing those cursive, but for all the young kids that might be playing your games later on or playing your games with their adults or their, family members, then they probably won't be able to read that, which is kind of sad to me. But also I am an elder millennial, so, get off my lawn a little bit.
Same here, right? I'm like, I stopped writing in cursive a long time ago. I think it comes from being an engineer and engineering stuff, but it also, I took Russian in high school and I learned to write in Russian in cursive. And then I suddenly found I couldn't write in English in cursive anymore. So cursive became my Russian language, which I don't speak or write to this day. Let's be really clear.
Your brain just was rewired.
It was just rewired. And so suddenly cursive became not as accessible to me anymore. But I can still read it, right? I'm slow at it, and I needed to take notes fast, so I switched back to printing.
Yeah.
So
Same. Yeah. Although, I feel like I need to write in cursive again just to make sure I know what I'm doing.
Well, I did practice when I finally got a game signed, and I was like, I'm going to need to do a signature. And so I recently just found the piece of paper where I was practicing my signature, because I was like, it's going to be in cursive, right?
It has to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like the one I use on my checks, right? But not that I write a lot of checks these days. But my partner just spotted it yesterday, and he's like, I was a little worried you were going like The Shining, that this was going to be like red rum, red rum, red rum, but it's just my name over and over again. I was really excited.
That's hilarious. Speaking of signatures, now that you're a published designer and people want you to sign their games, do you have a specific signature for your box when you sign games?
I do. So I write my name, Emily Vincent. But when I do the Y in Emily, I swoop it big and I make a little cat face, and then I draw whiskers on it. So now you can forge my signature. But yeah.
We've known each other for a while. I've play tested, I've hung out with you. I've never gotten your autograph, so now I'm going to have to bring a game just to get the cat signature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's so funny. Now, going back to what you talked about in terms of iconography and icons you use, there are some universal tabletop icons that are just for tabletop, right? There is the lightning bolt, which is immediate. Hearts are usually health.
Yep. Shields are usually defense.
That's
right?
true.
Or strength, something like that.
Slash is usually or, and plus is usually and.
Yep.
When people decide to change that, do you have a list of them, or is it just the ones that are in your head that you know of? What are your thoughts on universal tabletop game icons?
Yeah, I think there's a really fine edge to be walked here, right? Because you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So if you are, and I think where I see it most is when people are creating a board game world that has mythos and sort of a whole system, right? So instead of strength, they have vigor or whatever it is, right? And so people build the whole language of the world, and then they go looking for different icons. And I think that can be a slippery slope. If it really just is health, but with a different made up word, there's not going to be an icon that naturally matches that made up word. So you should really go with what people understand. And so leveraging what people know will make it faster for people to understand your game. And so I think that's where, if something that exists works, just taking it and using it, because then you've reduced the barrier to entry for everyone who's going to play your game. If there is a concept that is distinct and different, then stay the heck away from hearts. If it's not health, don't put a heart on it, right? Or love, right? I guess if you had a game where you have like love and hate and something like that. But yeah, don't take icons that people think they know what they mean and try to give them a different meaning, because their brain will fight them and will fight you. So making things intuitive is about understanding what the common interpretation of something is, and then deciding whether or not that's going to fit the situation that you're building to.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, something adjacent, but also very connected to usability and UI design is accessibility design. So designing for colorblind friendliness or designing for people with sensory issues. What do you think that most people need to focus on when developing or designing their board games?
Yeah. So my favorite thing, I've got my favorite thing and then my second favorite thing, but the first one is dual encoding. So, and this is most useful for folks who are colorblind, but dual encoding is giving, when you encode something, it's got two ways that it's encoded. So that could be shape and color. It could be word and color, right? Or it could be shape and, I don't know, word. You can figure it out. But you want two ways that people can access it, both because people, like I said earlier, sort of approach from different angles. People's brains work a little bit differently. But from a colorblind perspective, you never want to rely on just color, because there are many different ways that people can be colorblind. And so finding a palette that is perfect for everyone who's colorblind is really, really hard. And I would say from an aesthetic perspective, it's very challenging to find a palette that is both colorblind friendly across the board and then maybe looks the way you wanted your game to look, right? Because in order to make colors that are colorblind friendly, we're varying in hue, we're varying in saturation, we're doing a whole bunch of things that like maybe make colors that don't feel like they go together, right? So for this reason, I have let go of a couple of types of components in my prototyping. So I don't prototype with cubes anymore, because there's no way to dual encode cubes, right? And I don't prototype with resin gems because they're all the same shape. And I love resin gems. And maybe I'll get a kit someday that I've got cubes and cylinders and hexagon barrels and things like that then I can do that. But it's much easier for me to prototype with a set of blank tokens, where then I can pick an icon that has a color and I can just slap a sticker on it. And so I do all my prototyping with tokens at this point, because that's a fast way to prototype and ensure that it's sort of accessible to lots of players. From a sort of different motor abilities, thinking about the size of components is really one of the big things, and how how much room you have to grab them. The things that are really flat to the table, particularly if they're recessed into something, can just be very challenging. So bigger, chunkier sort of things, particularly during the prototyping phase, when maybe weight and size is a little bit less of an issue. I think about that a lot. So that's sort of like my first thought on accessibility. The other thing that I have, I guess it's less about accessibility, but it's more about intuition, is affordance. So affordance is the property of what you can do with something and what that object tells you you can do with it based on what it looks like or how it works. So like a chair has affordance for sitting because it looks like the way my body looks when I sit, right?
Okay.
It's got a spot for my butt and a spot for my back.
Okay.
A chair also has an affordance for standing because there's a flat part of it that I can put my feet on and I get higher.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got affordance for hanging my coat on because the back of it looks like my shoulders, right? And so that's a very obvious place to put my coat, right? And so the big example of affordance that people use is door handles. So when you go to push a door, you tend to push with a flat hand. So if you see a door that has a big flat panel, you're going to try and push it, right? Because that's the affordance. If you see one with a big sort of chonky handle, you're probably going to grab it and try and pull, right? Because that's how you pull. You make a fist and you pull something, right? So every time someone gets stuck in one of those doors where they are, trying to pull on a door that's actually a push, it's probably because it's got a handle that looks like you should pull it and it's told you to push it instead. And so that kind of affordance in all the things around us, we can also apply that in games, right? And so when I look at components, I'm like, what does this component, what can it do? And what does it tell me it can do? Hexes tell me that they can tile together into a mosaic, right? I can also stack them because they're tokens, right? Dice, I can throw them, I can stack them, I can use them to count, right? And so thinking about what the natural affordances for components are and how you lean into those so that it will be intuitive what to do with them can be a great way to make a game super approachable. And then on the other side, it can be a great way to flip things on its head. When people were like, let's make a game about throwing meeples, right? Yeah. No, there's no particular affordance for throwing a meeple. It doesn't tell you much how it lands, but that was a way to make something unexpected and different. And whereas, if I gave you some strange things to do with dice, it would be a sort of a toss-up about whether it was intuitive or whether it was like a cool new mind-bending experience. So.
But that's really cool because first thing I thought, affordability? Are you talking about like the finance? I never heard of that word. So yeah, thank you for explaining that. That's really interesting. That is very, very true. That just makes me think because there's the tower mechanism, wandering towers, where you're moving the tower and stacking. But usually you wouldn't think to move a tower. I guess you would think to place it, but you wouldn't think to hide things in it either. That's it. Very interesting. A way to maybe do something novel by doing the opposite of you think it should be affordability wise, right?
Yeah. It's I think this is true in like all forms of art. They say like once you know the rules, you can break them. And I think that once you sort of understand like what am I supposed to do with this object, then having that very intentional like what if I didn't do that can be a really cool breakthrough moment. Can also just be weird, but could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So do you have one tip or one takeaway regarding usability and UI design for new designers that you would think everyone should know?
I think the thing that I would say is that usability and UI design, no matter how effortless it seems, it's always intentional. And so if you're not thinking about it, you're probably not doing it. Right. And it doesn't actually take a ton of time, right? I think you can just spend a little bit of time thinking about communication design is specifically a topic I would Google to get more there because you don't need all of graphic design. You just need a few things here. Right. And so I think all the tools that are in usability, color and font and white space and all of that, right? Just taking the moment to be intentional with them rather than haphazard, I think is really the primary thing.
That's a good one. And even if you don't have a lot of confidence or knowledge around it, maybe talk with some graphic designers because they are constantly thinking about that and work with them or talk with other designers on why they chose a token versus a cube versus a die. Because even though they don't realize they are actually thinking about this topic, that's what's subconsciously or consciously going through their mind. They just don't label it this. So I feel like most designers at some point will have to go through and make sure that these things are included. Colorblind friendliness is something that is a hot topic for a while now, but I feel like it's something that should be universally thought of when going through and publishing a game. So this is something that, people have to think of, or they don't. If you don't think it's important because of certain this or that, then don't think of it as only for colorblind population, the colorblind population. Think about it just for general accessibility and usability, which would help everyone.
Yeah, and that is actually been found to be true in scientific studies, right? When we increase the usability of something for one group, it generally increases the usability for everyone, right? Because there's always someone who they're not colorblind, but for whatever reason, that thing helps them too, right?
Yes.
And so it just makes games more accessible for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. That was a very important topic and it was very interesting. So if y'all have any questions, you can either add a comment to this podcast or we will talk about ways you can connect with Emily and ask her directly. But right now we're going to talk about our top 5 hidden gem small box games. So these will not be Flip 7, which is completely huge right now.
Yeah.
I have taken out games from like Oink, which everyone knows is a big company, lots of small box games. They are kind of going into slightly bigger games or like Button Shy with their envelopes. Very, very small, compact, easily transportable. Tiny Epic has that whole series of taking big epic games and putting it into very tiny packaging. But I have to ask this, what is too big of a box to be a small box game?
Yeah, I was thinking of it as like games that are only cards, right? And so, and like, I guess you could be like, well, Dominion's only cards, but I was thinking it's small card games, right? I don't even have a card count. I have some of the ones I chose sitting next to me, and I'm like, it's not the smallest box I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking it's like small card only, like some of my favorite hidden gems.
Okay, well, as with almost every list I've done so far on this podcast, we have ever so slightly different meanings of the top 5, which is totally fine because I did leave out the AEG Flat Out collab series, kind of,
I
which
left those
are
out too.
Smallish box games. So, those are all, if you're looking for compact, easy to store, easy to transport, check out those companies. You might find some games that you really like. There's a wide range of mechanisms, play styles in all of those companies. But we will talk about our top 5 right now based on our own interpretation. Now, I, of course, am not going to do this in any particular order.
Okay.
So we will see. Emily, why don't you go first?
All right. So this game that I'm going to talk about is called Newfoundland Jam. And it's from Jason Anarchy Games. And it's like 2018. And it is just a delightful little card game where you're going to make some friggin' jam. And that's actually on the box. And it's a set collection game. It's very simple, very straightforward, but it's got these weird, like quirky, delightful things like they're jam burglars that are raccoons that come in and they're wearing like a big yellow rain hat and they're like stealing your jam. And you have to make things using tools. And the tools are like biffer boffers and globber bobbers. And like, it's just very irreverent, very tongue-in-cheek, and super easy. And so this is a game that I pull out when we have like family who are not big gamers. We want to play a quick game that they don't know. And so it's just, you got to get the sugar and you got to get the blueberries and you got to make a recipe. But along the way, it's just funny because you're like, and then I got to use some biffer boffers. Does anyone have any biffer boffers? And at one point you can also make tinned moose meat. So it's like leaned into this like Canadian thing, and even the directions have little asides and things like that I just find very delightful. But it's just a cute little game about making some friggin' jam. And I just really enjoy it. I find it delightful.
I love that. That sounds so adorable. I honestly never heard of this. Definitely right under my radar. Definitely need to check it out. And it looks I love the art. I'm looking at it on BGG right now. Very, very cute art. Is that like moose meat? Oh my goodness. And the moose have little X's.
Yeah.
That's so cute. That's so cute. But that's
I
funny.
spotted it at PAX East one year because every year we go. So when Eric and I go to PAX East, we will each buy a small game to play at the bar that night. And so we have this like random assortment of small games that we've picked up just as like, okay, we'll just try it at the bar tonight.
Oh,
but yeah,
I
the
love
Jam Burglar,
that.
he's so cute. He's just
He
he's so cute.
Oh, that's so funny. That's funny. So that's Newfoundland Jam.
Newfoundland? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the place in Canada. Newfoundland.
Yeah. Newfoundland Jam, and it's for 2 to 4 players. The designer is Jason Anarchy. The artist is Kelly Bustow, and the publisher is Jason Anarchy Games. So my first pick is Cat Rescue for 1 to 4 players. Designer is Tate Wu, and the artist is Kalimi. I don't know how to say her name, but the publisher is Sunrise Tornado Game Studios. I think this was not one of the first games that I played of Tate's, and Tate is a friend of mine. But this is one that I really, really enjoyed. And I played a first edition with regular card size, but now there's squares. And it's really, really cute art. It's the cat Sudoku cat, rescued. His whole series of cats is the same artist. Nice. And it's really, really adorable. Basically what happens is you have a tableau in front of you, and that is the world with all these cats in it. And you have to take cats and move them around so that they all are the same color, and so that then you can move them into the shelter, or you have to foster them, and then you have to put them out into the shelter so that they can get adopted. And it's a puzzly game because you have to push the cats in certain ways to make certain patterns, so that you can get the cats, I think it's 3 in the same color to be adopted, and you have to get rid of all the cats. It's a completely cooperative game. So you're working together to make sure that all the cats find a good home, that they're out of the rescue, they're out of your foster care as well. The box is really adorable as well. And it's very small. It's a small deck of cards. I think this kind of flew under the radar and you don't really hear about it anymore. It is from 2018, which is pretty old in tabletop years. Yeah. I always talk about tabletop years. There's thousands of games that come out every year. Therefore, if a game is like even 5 years old, it seems pretty old.
Yeah.
But this is one that I think is one of my favorites from him is Cat Rescue. I really enjoyed it. Have you played this one?
I haven't. I'm just looking it up and I'm like, I gotta get this. It's co-op and it's cats. Yes. I'm here for this.
Do you have any cats?
I have 2 cats. They're wandering around. I'm surprised one of them hasn't made an appearance, but he's probably sleeping. Yes, I have cats. I love cats.
What kind
of cats games
that
are coming to Kickstarters are going to be about cats this fall as well. So is a tuxedo. They're both rescues. Mm-hmm. So Knox is a tuxedo. She's about 8 years old. Okay. And she just recently lost one of her big teeth. It had been cracked for a while, so it's okay. It's better now. And then Fluffernutter is only a year old, and he's a tabby who's got a big white spot on his nose that looked like he dipped his nose in a jar of marshmallow fluff. And he is a tiny terror. He's kind of a demon. Like he's got orange eyes, and so sometimes he's Crowley.
Hopefully he'll grow out of it. He's still young.
Yes, he's still young. We thought he was 1 when we adopted him, but he was actually only 6 months old when we adopted him. So he's also a larger cat.
Oh my goodness. Hopefully he stopped growing or else he's going to be huge.
We think so. We think he may have stopped, but we'll see. Yes.
So that's Cat Rescue from Tate Wu and Sunrise Tornado Games.
All right. So my next game is a game called No Regerts, the game of art and poor life choices. which is also old in the realm of board games, is 2016. So this is by David Petrie, and the art is Samantha Romage, maybe? It's by Poison Fish Games, and this publisher is actually local to me here in Massachusetts, although I don't think I've ever met them. But this is a game where it's just a deck of cards that are tattoos. And there are good tattoos and bad tattoos. And on your turn, you must get a tattoo. And so you're building a little tableau in front of you, and you've got like 2 arms and 2 legs and your back and maybe your chest. But so if you want to get a good tattoo, you have to be able to pay for it in other cards. And if you can't pay for a good tattoo, then you have to take a bad tattoo. And so all the art is like hilarious, right? And like, cause there's like, the good art, like the whole conversation around the game is like, is this a good tattoo? Is that a bad tattoo? Right. And so you've got like, weird wordplay. There's an Americat, which is like a cat holding like an AK-47 and like going to war, and like Mr. T, but it's like a cup of iced tea with like a mohawk, and like, yeah, it's just great. And then, kanji for pork dumpling, right? A bunch of stuff that you're like, yeah, these are maybe not the tattoos you wanted. And so every turn you have to get a tattoo. And then there's some fun take that mechanics where you can actually trade arms with another player. So you can make a really bad arm, like a bad sleeve, and then give it to someone else and take their sleeve. And so it's for those who like take that. It's for those who like tattoos, but just all the unique art. I just find it a very delightful game to play. And it's just very easy to teach because it literally is, you must get a tattoo. Either pay for a good one or take one of the bad ones out of your hand.
That's so interesting. I think I saw this when it first came to Kickstarter, and I never really played it. But yeah, it definitely is a really interesting theme. Definitely check that out. That's No Regerts, the game of art and poor life choices for 2 to 6 players, from David Petrie. Samantha Romage is the artist, and it's published by Poison Fish Games. So my next game is from a big company that has big games and small games. But it's one that I think really went under the radar, and I enjoy it a lot. That is Big Sur for 2 to 4 players from Mondo Davis. Artist is Tristan Rawson, and the publisher is 25th Century Games. Now, this one is very similar to another one, and that one is Strange World Above the Clouds, so I'm kind of cheating, for 1 to 4 players. And the designer is Florian Renier, and the publisher is Gree Games. I do believe it is from Hachette Games that's distributing it to America, but they're very, very similar. So both of them are drafting. You're drafting and you're tableau building, and you're trying to get the most points based on the tableau, but you can only build it in a certain fashion. And there are public objectives that you can do, and they're both just a box of cards. Now, both of them also I played with Paula Deming. So I don't know if I really love it just because it was so much fun to play both of them with her, or if I just really love it. I played both with other people too and still enjoyed it. But my first entry to both of them was with Paula, and I had such a great time that then I showed it to a lot of other people. But both of them are really good, small game, very, very similar in that they're both drafting, tableau building, but different in that they're completely different themes. Big Sur is about going up this highway, creating a highway along the California coast. And you even have the token that says California 1 for Highway 1. The 1, because in California, we put a "the" in front of each of our highways. The 10, the 60, the 210. I don't think anyone else in the United States puts a "the" in front of our highway names.
Nope.
But that's a California thing. And then Strange World Above the Clouds is more of a fantasy world, and there's going to be like volcanoes that explode and destroy part of the land that you are building, but you also have some really cute animals that are strange to look at, but art's wonderful in both of them. So I would definitely check either of them out. They're really good. So I kind of cheated in there with a little too, but they're very similar to me, at least in my head. Yeah. Have you played either of those?
I haven't. I keep seeing Big Sur. I think I keep walking by the 25th Century table at various conventions and being like, oh, yep, there's that game. That looks good.
Yeah.
But I haven't
but
managed
no
to
one
play it
talks
yet.
about it. Yeah. And you haven't played. We'll have to play it. We'll have to play it
right.
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
We'll
Big
be at a show
Sur.
together soon. Yeah. Sorry.
Of course, right? I mean, you're going to Gen Con.
Yes.
You're going to PAX Unplugged.
Yep.
We will see each other.
Do it.
Whether or not we'll have time to play a game, that's a whole different story.
That is.
Yeah. Well, that is Big Sur from Mondo Davis and 25th Century Games. On to you, my dear.
All right. So I think I am about to also do my most recent game.
Oh, okay.
And this one, I don't even know if it flew under the radar. It's from a very small publisher that's very new. It's called Tootin Hollerin, and it's by Joe Kell. The artist is Zoe Allred, and the publisher is Lunar Games. And Lunar is doing a bunch of cool work with multi-victor or victorless games. And so this is one where many people can win and many people can lose. But the theme of the game, it's not going to be for everyone, I'll just say. So this is a push your luck game about having a farting contest.
Yep.
And that sentence delights me to no end. And then the game is also super fun, right?
Yes.
And so you are eating a lot of beans, and it's a push your luck game. So you want to keep pulling cards because you want to be making your farts that are the loudest, the smelliest, but not the wettest.
Yeah.
And so, because you don't want a wet fart. And so you just keep pulling, trying to win these other categories until you bust. And there's a mechanic in there where you can use ketchup, and the ketchup is the catch-up mechanic. And I love it so much. It's a very fun game to play. The artwork is just delightful because they're just fun little beans that, like, some of them are little jokes. So this was released as part of their night market last year. And so I know they did a limited print run. I don't know if they're planning to do another one. I don't know if they still have them available, but it's just a very fun and funny, cute little game. And if you like push your luck games, it's right there. I laugh every time we play it. And it's great because I do have a lot of friends that think this theme is hilarious, right?
Yes.
I am an elder millennial, and yet here we are. I'm here for a fart joke. So yeah, that's Tootin Hollerin.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still available. I know, like, at the end of the night market, they still had some. So Chris, who heads the night market online, which is separate from the indie night market at, like, PAX Unplugged, will bring these games to PAX Unplugged as well. If he has any extra copies of it, I would definitely maybe check out his website, because he might sell it there as well. And also maybe contact the designer. They might have copies as well. Or Lunar directly.
Lunar might, yeah.
Yeah, Lunar might have more copies. But I never played this one. I wanted to get it, but money was tight at that point. And I was like, I missed out on it. But yes, this like on the list to get if I had the funds, if my car didn't break some tires and my water heater didn't break. But you know what I mean. But I really enjoyed Vibes from Zoe.
Yeah.
Who did the art for both games, and also published by Lunar Games, because that also was that multi-vector where multiple people can lose and win, and which was very interesting. And it was a very fun, a little bit of take that, a little bit I just need to do things all by myself kind of game. And I really like the different themes that they're putting out there. That's a little bit out there, a little bit more, feels more Tokyo Game Market-y, because a lot of the Japanese publishers just puts random things that they like on these small box games, which if you're looking for really unique themes from small box, maybe try going to the Tokyo Game Market as well, because you'll find a lot of different ones. But yeah, that's a great choice. Tootin Hollerin for 2 to 8 players, designer Joe Kell, artist Zoe Alfred, and published by Lunar Games. Very nice. Okay, so mine is also another small company. I mean, most of these are going to be smaller companies.
Yeah.
I blame this game on my friend Corey, who introduced me to his first game, Expressions. And then later on, pulled me over to play test the game Espresso from designer Isaac Mayer and publisher Barnmain Games. Espresso, which is for 2 to 5 players, is a very fun, very small box card game about deduction, fulfilling contracts. Basically, you're trying to compete to fulfill all of the customers' orders for coffee and stuff. Now, this one was published in 2024, but I've never heard of anyone really talking about it. And I don't know how big of a distribution they are. If you ever seen Barn-Made Games, they're either go to their booth at a con and they're happy to, teach you the game and everything, or check out their games on their website. But this one was very, very fun, even with the memory aspect to it, because you kind of had to remember what they needed or what was where in order to kind of use the cards and fulfill these orders efficiently. And these are multi-use cards. So there's a lot of things that I wouldn't say is my favorite mechanisms in games, but put all together, it was a very fun game. And yes, we've had other games about, fulfilling contracts to make different orders for different customers in a lot of like bakeries and coffee shops and stuff like that. But this one's really small and it's fun. And I believe that he's a good designer that's coming up with really interesting things. Expressions was a co-op game, also deduction. Also, I see the clue you gave me and I have no idea what it means. But other people are like, oh, I get it right away. And you're like, oh my God, but we have to do it. We have to get rid of as many cards as possible while not giving as many clues as possible because those are all negative points. But yeah, Espresso, he's doing this EX game series. It's very fun, all in that same small box size. So go check that out. I don't think you've ever played any of his games, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's so many games to play. I'm so excited.
So many. And it's good because I also want to check out some of the games you talk about, but that one's from 2024. I think the best way you can get it is either through the booth or through the website. So that's Espresso from Isaac Mayer and published by Barn-Made Games. Okay, on to you, Emily.
I'm gonna jump in the Wayback Machine again. Apologies. Yeah. So this next one is Pass the Buck, a game of corporate responsibility management, designed by Carol Mertz and art by Carol Mertz as well. Publisher, Happy Badger Studio. There's not much in the way of art. It's more graphic design, I'd say. There's some good icons. Mm-hmm. And so in this game, I'll say it's a bluffing game. It's a hand-shedding bluffing game.
Interesting.
So you work in a corporate structure and you get a bunch of nonsense tasks and your job is to delegate them to other people. And so, and everyone has different roles like your IT or your marketing, but those roles are hidden. And so you're trying to figure out who you can delegate to. And then that person can either accept it because they are that role. And then everyone now knows what role they are. Or they can be like, nope, sorry, I'm not IT. I'm not going to take it. And then you have to decide whether or not to call their bluff. And if they're bluffing, then they have to reveal that they are and take the task. And if they're not, then you have to, I think you draw another card or you get another task or something like that. And basically you have to shed your hand, I think 4 times, because every time you fully shed your hand, you get promoted. And so you get another role. And so you're racing to see who becomes CEO first. Okay. And so it's just part of the joy of this game is, I mean, it's fun to bluff and like lie with your friends, but like the tasks are very silly. And so they're like things like, we need to make our younger demographic aware of a new product line, design and send a fax blast. And you're like, what are we doing? And so for anyone who's lived in like an unfortunate corporate life, there's just so much about this that like both you're like, yep, that is actual nonsense that I feel like I might hear. And other times when you're like, I think that's too nonsensical. And then someone at the table's like, no, that would happen, right? So it's a very dark view of the corporate world, but it also is very cathartic. And it's great to be like, that's not my job. I'm not gonna do that. So it's a ton of fun. I believe this was on Kickstarter. I think we have it because Eric backed it on Kickstarter. But it's one that I can pull out with with friends. And I have friends who ask to play it and are like, hey, can we play that game again? That was hilarious. And I think we're all emotionally scarred from our time in corporate.
Yeah.
And so it's just a blast. But yeah.
That's so funny. And if you don't know what a fax machine is, Google it. I mean, I know there's been multiple generations that I've never heard of it. I actually had a guy that was like, I need a fax because I'm going to work at Google now and they need me to fax them my driver's license. And I looked at him and I was like, can you take a picture with your phone and email it to them? He's like, oh, I guess I could. And I was like, you're going to work for Google? I don't know. You know how corporate's gonna be weird. I mean, they do ask for the silliest things.
I will say I did have something the other day where I had a document I needed to sign, and they're like, we need you to print this, physically sign it with my signature, going back to our previous conversation, and then scan it back in and send them a scan of the actual signature, not like using like, Adobe to virtually sign it. They're like, we need physical signature.
But now you can use a tablet to physically sign on the tablet, right?
I don't know. Their instructions specifically said we would like you to print this, use a black pen, and then scan it or take a picture and send it back. Right.
How interesting. So. Yeah. The specific things. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, if you also want to talk about weird corporate policies, go play Pass the Buck, a game of corporate responsibility management from Happy Badger Studios. Hopefully they have more on their website.
Hopefully.
Because that's
Or
hilarious.
maybe eBay. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. For me, my next one is one that also just came out and I also just played, I think last year. It is Lunar Skyline for 2 to 6 players. Designer is Charlie McCarran. And artist is Zachary Leo, Alex Pei, Maria Zovonka. I apologize. Published by Dead Alive Games. Now, this is a trick-taking game and with predictive bid. So you know about bidding for how many tricks you can win. But you have to win tricks to upgrade your ship in a way. It's almost an engine builder. You're trying to do some set collection. It's very interesting. You have to kind of play it twice. Very beautiful cards. Their Kickstarter had really thick metallic cards for your bases, which was very much coveted. It's really gorgeous on the table. And it's one of those that you're like, how are you winning this? This is crazy. Or I really needed that to finish this set off, to do this. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun. Really, really enjoyed that one. But it definitely was on Kickstarter, but you can purchase it from the publisher directly. There's a lot of trick-taking games out there, but this one definitely felt a little bit differently to me. And I think it plays better at a higher player count. And this is one of those games where each card has multiple iconography on it, but it's clear to me. So I don't necessarily know if it is colorblind friendly in that way. Just going back to our original discussion, but it is, the iconography is easy to understand once you play through at least one of the games. And it's mostly set collection in that way. So it's not too bad, but it is beautiful art on there. I do like a lot of Dead Alive games. So I don't think you've played this one either, huh?
Nope. Yeah. Nope. Look at this. We're going to have a zero overlap.
Oh yeah. No, we're not.
We have one more left.
I guarantee there's I guarantee there's going to be no overlap. But yeah. I really enjoyed the look. I really enjoyed the play. Definitely give it a couple of games to really understand. But check out Lunar Skyline by Charlie McCarran, published by Dead Alive Games. And what is your last one?
All right, so mine, this is a little bit of a cheat. It's a very small box, but it's multiple boxes. So anything from the Holiday Hijinks line. So Holiday Hijinks are a series of 18-card escape room games. And so they come in like, it's not a wallet, it's like a little tuck box thing. And they're like the Kringle caper, and like they're all around holidays, right? There was a Valentine's one. I was like, I should look at the names, but I only had the Kringle caper up in front of me. And so they're all designed for the pumpkin problem, the independence incident, the Cupid crisis, the birthday burglary, turkey trial. So up until recently, they've all been designed by Jonathan Chaffer, who is a designer and also like a puzzle designer and does a lot of he has a YouTube channel on logic puzzles and stuff like that. And then they're all published by Grand Gamers Guild. But recently, some other folks have come in to design some of them. So Kirsten Lund did a Hanukkah one, and Danielle Reynolds is doing a Pride one that's being released this year around
awesome.
Pride. Yeah. And so they're just super fun though, because there's 18 cards and you got to play with, you need like the website because you have to like enter the answers and check them. But the cards are like used in so many different ways because there's only 18 cards and they each have little puzzles, and sometimes you need multiple cards to solve a puzzle. And like, I don't want to like spoil too much, but like they're all so much fun. They're so creative. They play in an hour, right? Because it's an escape room. And then you've got this little game that you can just like give to someone else and be like, go enjoy this experience. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with them. And so I have a bunch of them. And they've been a blast, and they've just been a blast to share with people, like to play with people for the first time, and see them sort of go like, oh my God, there's so much fun packed into this tiny little 18 card package.
And I'm guessing that they're reusable. Like once you've gone through it, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you can't play it again because you know the answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not destructive. So you're not like cutting them up or anything like you might with like an exit game. You just pack them back up in the right order and put the tuck box back together, and there you go. You can give it to someone else.
That's so awesome. I like escape room games. I definitely want to check out the series, and I'll link the first one in here. But I also didn't know that Josh Chappell, who is from KTBG, was the artist.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I saw that. I know Jonathan gets listed as an artist because some of the puzzles require him to like specifically draw things in places. But yeah, that's cool.
That's really awesome. Yeah, Danielle does some amazing games. So I'm definitely looking forward to the new in the series. But now I have to go and check out the OG ones from 2020. That's just, it's only 6 years. It's not really that old.
Well, and so Grand Gamers Guild usually has them at conventions. So they'll have like a little rack of a bunch of different ones. They might not have every single one, but you can go and pick up like 3 or 4. And they have different difficulties. They have like 1, 2, or 3 stars on the back. So you can sort of figure out what you're feeling like playing.
Awesome.
So you can pick these up usually at conventions at the Grand Gamers Guild booth. That's who the publisher is. And they may not have all of them, but they usually have a display of some subset of them. And you can just buy a couple and pick the difficulty that you want.
That's so fun. And that's Hollywood. Not Hollywood. They should do a Hollywood Hijinks. That would be great. Fun. That'd be fun. Yeah. But anyways, that's Holiday Hijinks. And we're going to link the number 1, the Kringle Caper from the Grand Gamers Guild. I definitely need to check this one out. For my last one, it's one I've talked about a lot, but I don't think it's enough love in North America. That's Wok and Roll for 1 to 5 players by Daryl Chow. Publisher is Ori Game without the S, because Ori Games with the S is a French publisher. But he's over in Singapore. And it's a lovely roll and write in a little small box. The menu or the boards fold out and looks like a traditional Asian old red and white menu that you might see. It was very much a callback to my childhood because my dad opened Chinese restaurants up and down in Alabama. And he also has an expansion called the Korean Wave, which really adds additional things to the base game and a different menu for you to play off of. You're rolling these ingredient dice into the box, which looks like black wok, and everything looks so cool and cute And it's a really fun roll and write with some combos. And you are playing every round. So whatever other people roll, you can use. There's just these 2 red dice where they can only use those ingredients. So sometimes they might be hateful and keep the ingredients that everybody else needs on those red dice and just re-roll the white ones that they don't need. But yes, Ori game has a lot of small box cards, different games from other Asian publishers as well. And they are usually a smaller package because in Asia, they have a lot less room to store board games. Also, they are, at least Daryl Chow's design games are very thematic. He has one that he made in conjunction with a well-known Chinese medicine company. So this is a traditional Chinese medicine herbal company that asked him to make a game about Chinese herbal medicines. Yeah. And then he also made Bubble King and one that was a coffee version as well, to talk about how the coffee and the boba tea craze came about in Asian countries and stuff. So it's very, very fun. Definitely go check out some of his games. And also he's a really awesome person. So yeah. So those are our top 5s. I just have a couple of honorable mentions. So my first one is Trickadee. It was released last year for 3 to 5 players. Designer is Rob Newton. Artist is Kelly King, and it's published by Coin Flip Games. This is one that I got a review copy of because I'm helping Rob and Ashwin Kamath, who did Chicken Fried Dice together. And I have not played it yet. It's definitely been in my bag multiple times, and I just need to get this played. It's such a cute game about birds. It's a trick-taking game. All things that hit the spot. And so I really definitely want to try this one out. Unfortunately, there's no coins in it, but there's also lovely art and lovely birds. But it's on my to be played bag, or in my to be played bag that I take to all the game nights so that I can possibly get it played. But that's Trickadee from Coin Flip Games. Yeah. What about you?
I have an honorable mention of Bandido by Helvetic. Yeah, that one's just super fun. It's cool to do a sort of little tile placement with just those small cards in that very small box form factor. So, and I haven't played Bandita. I'm not sure if it's different, but I keep eyeing it. So
I think it is slightly different in that there's different objectives, or there might be some kind of powers that go with it. I've played both, but I've forgotten what the difference is. But yeah, they're very, very similar in that you're just laying down these cards that are a weird size, but they're very small cards. And you're making out a cooperative tableau building.
Yes.
But I do believe Bandidas has some kind of a power that you can use. But yeah, that one's very fun. And I was looking at those games. I was like, do we talk about them or not? I think Helvetic has a lot of these small box games that are really good too. Really fun. Yeah, I agree. Bandido is a very fun game for 1 to 4 players. Designer is Martin Anderson, and the publisher is Helvetic. I can't even say that word. Say it again.
Helvetic?
Helvetic.
I'm just saying it like Helvetica, the font. It technically has a Q on the end instead of a C, but I think it's Helvetic.
Look at us, just keep on calling back to our
We're really good at this. Yeah.
I love it. And I do have to call out, there's one game that I have been really loving lately, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. And it's a small box game that I cannot, for some reason, spell right. There it is. It is Neko Syndicate for 1 to 4 players. Designers Danny Garcia. Artist is Jennifer Gierner. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to say her name. But publisher is Combo Games and 25th Century Games. So in North America, you can get it from 25th Century Games. And the theme is you're all cats, but in a Japanese samurai mobby way, where your cat syndicates trying to do the best sushi production and distribution in this city that's Japanese-ish themed, right? And you have your own clan. But the really interesting part is it is a tableau builder that you're building your engine out. So where you place your cards will tell you when you can do it. So you're placing you're drafting these cards, then you're placing it into your engine or tableau, and then you're going to run your cat through this engine. And it's like a tech tree where you start at the top and then you can either go left or right, but you cannot go back. And then you go left or right again, like a family tree in a way. And you're activating these things to get sushi parts, to make the sushi, to deliver the sushi on different cards. And it's just the most interesting little puzzle. And you have limited availability of resources, and some sushi needs rice and some sushi don't. It does use cubes, so I don't know how colorblind friendly it is, but people have done dots and symbols on their cubes as well.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because the engine kind of breaks your brain because you cannot go back, but then other things can move cubes on other cards up and down. And you're trying to get the most points while doing these public objectives while trying not to be negative points. It's just one of those that if you like puzzly engine building games, you have to check this one out. It has a little bit of a footprint. So like the box is small, but the smallish, I have to say. It's not like Bandido small, but like the amount of space it needs on your table is kind of big. I love the cat artwork though. The cat artwork is just really cute. You really don't care once you start engine building and moving your cats around. But you're going to run through the engine multiple times and you have to decide left or right. And then when you're placing a card, you're like, oh, but I need it on this side, but I can't play it on this side and I need to connect it somehow there. Or I need to do this first in order to do that. It has broken my brain a little bit, but it's also quite a quick game. It's very fun though. I really enjoy it. That's Neko Syndicate from Combo Games and 25th Century Games.
I think I saw you playing this at a convention, maybe at OrcaCon or something like that.
Yes!
Yeah, the art looks really cute.
Yeah, I did play at OrcaCon. Yeah. Me and my friends ask about it all the time. We're all like, oh, we should play that one. Yeah, we really like it. But I don't really see it talked about like in the social media sphere as much. But yeah. So yeah, those are small box games that we both don't think gets enough love that you should check out. There are a lot more independent game designers and independent publishers that are putting out small box because it's a smaller overhead. It's a smaller initial financial deposit that you need in order to publish these games. So yeah, go check them out. You never know what you're going to find. It's a very small amount of money for you to try it. So you don't have to invest a lot into it. And it doesn't take up a lot of shelf space. So please go check out any of these games. And if you don't think the games are interesting, go check out the designer or the publisher because that would be very helpful to them as well. And now we've come to the moment of positivity. There's a lot of things that are happening in this world, but we are going to hype or talk about something that's made us happy or brings us joy in this really crazy times that we are at. Emily, why don't you go first?
There's so many moments of joy, little moments of joy that are around here. But I think I've just gotten a lot of joy recently from my cats. And in particular, it's spring. And so we've just opened the windows and now the cats are like in the window doing like yelling at birds is what we call it. Right. And so they are just having such a wonderful time. And I look over and I see them like they sit across from me and I see them being super engaged all day and then passing out at night because they're so tired from having spent the whole day yelling at birds. That's just bringing me, there's the joy of just like a nice breeze coming through the window. But I think there's also the joy of seeing the cats just be like, this is the best thing that's ever happened.
And they forgot that it happened last year.
Exactly. Right. They forgot. I'm in Boston, right? We had those windows closed for quite a number of months.
That's lovely. So the welcoming of spring with the cats yelling at the birds.
Yes.
Do you have a bird feeder right outside your window to give
No,
attention?
we're on the second and third floor of our house, but we have some, like the power lines that come back here are sort of at the level of our second floor, so they can yell at the birds on the power line.
That's very cute. That's very cute. Unfortunately, we haven't heard any cat yelling in the background.
They've been
during the
sleeping.
recording.
Yep.
Oh my god,
He's very asleep. Yep.
That's so cute. That's so cute. My moment of positivity. So I am in the LA area, and if you are living in the LA area, like Los Angeles County in California is almost as big as some countries. It's huge, okay? And you can get a library card for LA County and LA City as long as you're in somewhere in this area. And I don't know if people can get some library systems allow you to get a card even if you don't live in the area. You just have to pay a small fee. But my moment of positivity is that for their 100th anniversary, their centennial, they have created these giant stamps for each of different branches of the city of Los Angeles libraries. And there's like over 20 of them. And they have individual stamps. And then they took if you don't know, there used to be such a thing called a card catalog, in which that's how you would go and find a book in the library. And so when they dismantled it, they take these stacks of these paper filing system, little index cards, and they put it into packets, and you can just go and ask for one. And then you can run around to different branches of the library and get them stamped on individual card catalog cards. And so me and my friends have been doing that. We got a packet, we run around, we take the weekend, and we'll go and run around to 4 or 5 different library branches, get our stamps, go get a coffee or a boba, and then come back and play a couple games. And that would be the lovely Saturday that we had. So that just happened, and we're planning on a second one. And I just hope that we can go to all of them, because then you get to see the different architecture, the different sculptures, how different libraries lay themselves out, where the different libraries are, which is very interesting. And there is like some libraries in very sketchy areas that you have to be careful of. Or there is the problem with any big city is parking, right? That you can't find parking. So we've kind of carpooled, and we go in a group, like just all go to the information. They're like, oh, there's so many of you wanting the stamp. You're just going. And we're like, yes, we're caravanning. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's good to see how the different stamps are. It's a free activity to do with your time, minus the gas prices right now. But it was lovely. It was a lovely day to just go around collecting stamps of different libraries in the area. And go also, while you're driving around, you get to see different parts of the city that you never will drive into just because you don't need to, or it's very trafficy and stuff like that. There is other cities, like other countries that have this, like Japan has a whole system of stamps, big stamps that you can collect at different tourist spots or different rail lines. And you just get to bring a blank notebook and you get to do the stamp, and it's a lot of fun. Other cities have tried doing that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's very interesting. It's really something cool to have, and to have it on the back of an old card catalog system, I think just really upped the fun factor for me, because we also got to read the different books titles, and people would annotate stuff like, oh, if you need this part, go look at this book. They'll write notes. So it's fun to actually check out and see which card catalog cards you get as well. They're gone. No library right now has a card catalog system, which is sad, because back in my day, that's how you would cross-reference or find the card where it is on the shelf, which is absolutely hilarious. Now you just Google everything.
When you started talking about a thing they used to have, I thought you were going to be talking about the piece of paper that goes in the sleeve on the back of the book where you write your name of who took it. And like, I was like,
the date.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember, because while we were doing that, I did talk to my friends about that, because in school, you would borrow these textbooks, like in grade school, like middle and high school. You would borrow your textbook. There would be that whole card sleeve, and then you would have to write your name and your year, or you have to write your name and the date you borrow it, right? And then they would stamp it on what date it was due based on the day you borrowed it. And then you'd have to come bring it back. And then they look at the card to see if you were late or not. There's no barcodes or scanning or anything like that. But I remember like maybe 10 plus years ago, they would bring that back as a design choice for like pencil cases and other things. So that kind of has lived on. I don't think the card catalog system really had anything like that. But yeah, so now we're like, we need to get an old Rolodex so that we can have a very small little card catalog of all these stamps. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Wow. Sadly, we're coming to the end of this episode. This has been so much fun, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me for this chat. You should go check her out and talk to her and play any of her games. If you see her at a convention, please say hi. But otherwise, Emily, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram as Pink Hawk Games, or you can go to my website, pinkhawkgames.com, or you can find me on Discord, which is probably the most common place to find me. I'm Emily Keeps Kitties, and I'm wandering around the Building the Game and Break My Game Discords. So come find me on Discord.
Awesome. And do you know what conventions you're going to this year?
Yes, I will be at Origins and Gen Con and PAX Unplugged. We'll have a Pink Hawk Games booth at all 3 of those conventions. And you'll probably see me around the Flat Out booth as well every now and then. I always forget this because I always do this on my other podcast. I am on a podcast. So if you want to check me out on the Building the Game podcast, that's a weekly podcast. I'm a co-host of that. And so you can find me there too.
Love that. Oh my gosh, I don't know how you do a weekly podcast.
I'm not on it every week. Jason's on it every week. I'm only on it a lot of weeks.
A podcast is quite a bit of work, everybody. So I am shocked at how much work a podcast is because after taking over this one, I'm just like, wow. But anyways, yeah, it's a labor of love, right? It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
Can you sneaky peeky some things or some games that are coming from Pink Hawk Games or from Emily Vincent in the future?
Yes. So coming this fall, it's going to be a very exciting fall. Pink Hawk Games is doing a Kickstarter. It's a bundle of 2 games, 2 cat games. So Super Chonk is a fast card game of cats that just want to get fat. You're racing to eat the most kibble.
Mm-hmm.
And then Good Kitties is a much bigger, it's a cooperative game with 8 different missions where you are house cats who perform missions at night while your humans are asleep in order to take over the house. So you like take over the water faucets and like build pocket dimensions and just normal cat stuff.
Kitty.
Yeah. So that's coming from Pink Hawk. And then there's also an Emily Vincent game coming from Flat Out called Perennial. And it's going to be a beautiful tile placement game of building a perennial garden. So very exciting. More to come on that. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting fall on Kickstarter for me.
Yes. I've play tested the 2 that's coming from Pink Hawk. It's a lot of fun. Also, yeah, check out if you see any of the playtesting areas, please check the schedule and see if Emily's going to be there because it's a lot of fun playtesting her games. There's one party game that I'm definitely looking forward to, and I hope it comes out soon. Because it's also a lot of fun. A little hint for you all. But yes, please go and check that out. Follow her Instagram so you know when her next game pops on Pink Hawk Games or in other publishers. And thank you so much, Emily. This has been a lovely, lovely time. Good to chat with you as always. And I'm excited to see you at the next convention.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Panda. This is amazing. So much fun.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Amanda Wong. Be sure to visit us on the web at boardgamegeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under Board Game Geek. At Twitch, we are under Board Game Geek TV. And you can reach us by email via podcast@boardgamegeek.com. Thanks for listening and happy gaming.